Hi, I'm Peri. I'm here to talk to you about creating a character for a LARP setting. Oftentimes people come into LARP not really knowing who to be, and you're often overwhelmed by all of these people having colorful, realized characters, bouncing off of each other, being funny, dramatic, and it can be very stressful when you have no idea what they're talking about. So I've just come up with a few tips to help you. One, and this is for the writers, because LARP tends to attract a lot of creative people, is that LARP is not a story. It is, but it's not a written story. You are not in control of all the pieces. Thus, a character in LARP isn't written the same way as a character in a book. And for the non-writers out there, that's a good thing. You don't have the pressure of having to write an entire book character, so awesome. The difference is that when you create a character in a book, you are creating all the things that influence them and all the characters that bounce off of them. In a LARP, you don't have that. So when you want to create a character that's interesting to interact with, you want to consider that you can only define your character. So in this sense, what you usually want to do is find, not a gimmick, but something that makes them interesting and can stand on their own. You could have a character that's really scared of minotaurs, or really racist against gnomes, which is a very common one in our LARP because it's funny. You can also do other stuff, like maybe they are banned from one specific bar, or banned from an entire nation, banned from a college, stuff like that. Having your character react in specific ways can be a great way to differentiate themselves, even if their backstory or their motivations are not the most spectacularly drawn out thing in the world. I myself have played characters who are terrified by people being romantic with each other. I've had characters who are annoyed by anyone who is scared of magic and has berated them. We've had other people who are just scared of everything or don't like the sun or stuff like that. Anyway, so that's the first tip. The second tip is don't expect to have your character on the first day, and don't feel nervous about that, because oftentimes, like I said, fully realized world, it takes a lot of time to read all that, and very few people do. If you are, that's great. In fact, if you want to do that, you're probably already done with this, but if you're not, don't worry about having it decided, as I said, and what you want to do is just pay attention to what everyone says, and wait until something interests you. For instance, in our LARP, I was first interested by the fact that there was something called blood magic, and immediately I knew I wanted to play blood mage, because that sounded awesome. We've had other people who have heard of places like Hueve, which is a super oppressive, elvish, sexist, racist, anti-magic nation, and we've had quite a few people say, I want to be from there, because I want to suffer. So you get a lot of stuff like that. A friend of mine wanted to be from the militaristic, elvish nation of Exbalterra, because no one was ever from there before. So really, just spending the first mission or two keeping your ears up and playing fast and loose with what you want your character to be can be a really good thing. Other than that, anything else? And as for inspiration, this loops back to everything else. Inspiration can be the hardest because you want something you can be proud of or identify with. And that's where kind of everything comes together. You have to realize that what you present isn't always going to be the most unique thing. But that's okay, because the thing that really helps with inspiration is having fun. So it's not so much having a character that's good, so much as having a character that's fun to be around and fun to play with. Most people find their most inspiring when they have a character that keeps going with their own forward momentum, because you have provided enough stuff to essentially catapult it to entertainment. And the last thing I want to talk about is the two most common things I've seen people fall into when they make their character: the generic everyman and the strong, silent, dark hero. The generic everyman is a good starting point. No one usually knows what they want to do, and sometimes just having the generic person from the generic nation with the generic backstory and the generic sword is good. But it can also be a bit annoying when everyone else is like lost princesses or, I don't know, assassins. And you do have to strike that balance. Usually in these cases, I would advise against the everyman after the first time, not so much make them super special awesome, but come up with one thing abnormal about them. Maybe it's as simple as they've just been through a bad breakup, or they one time saw a really weird up bird in the sky and saw it fly away and it motivated them. Or it could just be that the way they look at the world is differently. This would help your character be interesting, because unfortunately the everyman, while fun, easy to play, won't always get people to interact with you. And this is where the strong, silent hero gets the worst. Many people want to have an interesting character where they bring in the strong, silent hero. And what happens with silent types is no one talks to them because they're silent. And that's the hardest thing, because you want to talk with people, but not everyone's going to talk to you. That's where the whole "you are not a writer, you are one character" comes in. So, in that sense, I would personally recommend not doing it, but I know some people have done it. I played a mute once. That was horrifying and very hard, but I was also not brooding. And the thing with the Dark's backstory is that everyone in LARP will usually have something sad in their backstory. So if you want to have your character stand out via sad backstory, you have to make sure it is not the fact that it is a sad backstory that makes them interesting. It has to be what's in it. Either they were a pirate and now they speak like a pirate, yarg, or something like that. That is interesting. Just the person's parents being dead is just kind of a, congratulations, you can be a crusader. Good job. Bare minimum passed. Yeah.